Hello, welcome to the latest episode of Hard Hats and Headspace. I'm with my good friend Tom Chapman here today in the studio. We're going to have a natter for an hour. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff, go off in all different directions as usual. I reckon we'll probably cover pop-ups, training, wrestling, football, and all sorts of stuff that we don't plan to. But Tom, welcome onto the show, and I'd love you to introduce yourself for those poor people that haven't met you yet.
Thank you, Stuart. It's great to be here, mate. Honestly, really honoured to be part of this amazing new project you've got going. So I'm Tom Chapman. I'm the founder of Lions Barber Collective and here to talk. I lost a friend to suicide, which drove me towards doing something, and that something happened to align with my career path of being a hairdresser and barber, and now we basically use a vehicle of a haircut to open up conversations around mental health.
Yeah, and it is incredible. I've been so lucky to be involved with. I think it's over 4 years now. We've been working together.
Yeah, it's been a while now, hasn't it? Yeah, your time
Yeah,
flies.
I know. We've been through some stuff, haven't we? In that time,
Yeah, it's been eventful 4 years.
just a bit. But I think I was inspired by what you were doing. Truly, on a personal level, so much to the point that we did one pop up, and I was like, I can't leave it here. I can't not do this anymore. You know, we've got to carry on. And I thought what you were doing was brilliant, and so yeah, put myself forward. We'd start doing ambassador stuff when it was still charity, and we can get onto that as well in time. But I think that's sitting in front of our competitors, my Macy's competitors, were telling them what a great thing it was. We don't normally do that in our industry. We don't normally help each other out that much, and I think it's really good.
Yeah, amazing. I'm really grateful for the opportunity you gave us. That first one was on Houston, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think first or second one. I think I'd seen you do one with Sal Coppertosto,
that's right.
and someone had been talking to me about the figures and the numbers, and some people have been people keep quoting 2 a day. It's too many a day. That's the phrase I'm going to use now in construction, and of people we're losing to suicide. And I've said this repeatedly of late because I've sat in rooms and heard people say, "Oh, this one's better than that one. It's better than the other one." Right. All things we do around surrounding mental health awareness and training and suicide prevention is a good step in the right direction. I don't hold with this, so only talking about it is not enough. Every little bit we do is good to raise it. And I think that said, my favourite thing I think I've ever done was doing the pop-ups with you guys.
Yeah,
That first one at Euston.
I think the pop-ups have been a huge success. Really, the first one we ever did was in a Brewdog pub in Camden before Progress Wrestling Show, many years ago, and it was a bit of an ad hoc thing. We didn't have any barbers chairs. A guy that I knew some of the security guards from Progress Wrestling. It's an electric ballroom in Camden. It was just an idea, like, should we go down and cut some hair in the pub? Someone else knew the manager there, so we were down in the basement there. It was very hot and sweaty, and we were just bought our stuff, and we were just cutting on just little short stalls. And I actually still talk to one of the guys that I cut his hair that day. That's pre-COVID, so it was
it's probably late teens, I would think. Yeah,
we go, and it just went so well. I couldn't believe how open people were to talk in this pub downstairs having their haircut. I can't believe how many people turned up, to be fair, but it was really sort of like an insight into the fact that if we can get haircuts into a space where they're with their tribe, people feel safe, whether that's with wrestling or with football or on a construction site, or people are in their little clique as such, so they feel safe to talk about things. And once they have the haircut, they're not even really thinking about what's happening on. There was that study that Samaritans did. Men especially are better at talking about their mental health when they're doing something else. It's not that sit down face to face confrontate. It's quite confrontational. It's kind of like being told off by the headmaster sort of thing, Or it's not it doesn't really work. People get their back up and they don't want to open up. But once having a haircut, it just seems to open the floodgates.
Tactile, isn't it, as well? And I think you put yourself in a vulnerable position anyway when you're sat in a barber's chair. This one with scissors in their hand right next to your head for a start. You've let that guard down already, and there's a natural instinct. If you were outside in the street and someone did that, you'd be a bit defensive about it. Yeah. So I think, you've chosen to put yourself in that vulnerable situation, and it makes sense. And I hadn't thought about this till we got together, and that sitting people down and seeing the evidence of that, and I remember asking you, "Are you sure they're going to talk next to each other?" You're like, "Yeah, we'll watch this." Like, fuck, I'm sure. And I was like, "All right," I mean, you told me the story about Paddington on the
Yeah,
platform,
yeah.
not the bear.
Not the bear, no. It's just I mean, the fact that that was quite a. I mean, it's quite a good example, really, of how open people are to talk. When Paddington train station is busy as hell, there's people coming and going. We're cutting hair. Guy comes and sits in the chair. Just got off the. Is it the Heathrow Express that goes into Paddington? Or
Mm.
yeah, he just got off there with all his luggage, and he was with his partner, and she was in eyesight, but not ear. Yeah, earshot. She wasn't. She couldn't hear us, but he basically told me he didn't love her anymore, and he all this holiday, had made him realise that. And you think, how can that he's never met him before in my life? He's sit in that chair, and I think once they have that they're sat in the chair. They got the cape round them, which is kind of a bit like a sort of invisibility cloak, almost kind of vibe. They're kind of
Yeah,
up. You got license to touch, so that human contact releases oxytocin. There's a level of trust there, like you mentioned. We're allowed to use very sharp implements around their head and neck. Intimacy between men is very rare. There's not many people that touch your head or face or neck as lovers and mothers normally. I
yeah,
think the fact that we are a bit of a stranger helps, and there's no judgment there. There's no fear of judgment. It's just kind of like a perfect storm, really. All those things combine to make that
yeah.
person feel safe to be able to talk. And yeah, we don't use mirrors, and I think that was one of the things that we did a couple of times, and one of them broke, and we're like, oh shit, we got no mirrors, so we
Yeah.
didn't use them, and we found that actually people opened up even more because they weren't that eye contact wasn't there, and that's such a little bit of a controversial thing because people it was from a young age, so look at me, so I know you're listening. Look at me, so,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that we feel like we've got to have eye contact to know that we're listening, but when we removed that, people felt even more comfortable to open up and talk. It's wild.
It's brilliant. I mean, I got to watch, fast forward to that day we had in Euston, right? And it was incredible. But, you're still never 100% sure. I'm going to go back a little bit before that because I think you guys you're a great talking point. Anyway, you especially. I remember we were in the tower, in a very corporate tower outside the front of Euston, and took you in the office and you had a vest on and a pair of shorts and long flowing hair. And someone was like, who's Stu brought in now? And even that starts the conversation because everyone wants to know what's going on.
Yeah.
So just walking you through that and then going down to site and we looked at where we were going to do it and the room. And then on the day, getting the logistics guys to meet you at the gate. And everyone was talking about it and hearing people from other sites going on over this. It was brilliant.
I think that's the key, isn't it? Right. I think for us, it's we pop up on a construction site with another company, and it was they had a mental health week, and there was us and a couple of other charities either side of us. And I think this was the moment when I really realised the value, I suppose, of our product and how we do it. They had these two other charities either side of us were sat at a table with lots of literature in front of them about suicide and mental health, and with two elderly volunteers sat behind each desk. And then we were in the middle with a couple of barbers, Rocky being one of them, so you can imagine what that was
Yeah,
like.
love Rocky.
And we were rammed all day. We had people hanging around all day, like we did at Euston. Yeah, people kept coming back and just having a chat, even if they weren't having their hair cut, and the conversations were flowing. And I took a moment and looked to either side of me, and neither of them had had any real interaction, and they both left early. And I just thought, it was like kind of because this is just what we do and what we've done for ages. So I never really realised until that moment that actual it's like a carrot on the end of the stick for the donkey. It drags them in with a free haircut. So what's going on here? Then we turn up. We don't really look like construction workers as such. We look like mental health workers. We're just barbers. And I think people like
Yeah.
having a haircut as well. People love having their haircut. So they come.
And it was a busy game, construction.
Yeah,
Game is not the right word, but what we do is busy. You might do 6 days a week,
yeah,
and at the end of the sixth day, okay, you might get an early dart, but you've worked a sixth day. You want to go home. You might want to go see your family, see your friends, or play football, any of that. Have a shower. Just do your life in a day and a half outside of work.
yeah.
You ain't got time to go to barbers again. And that's stressful as well, not having that level of self-care. So I think what I noticed was that story. There was one particular guy on that day that had that story to tell me after when he came to say thanks. And it was someone I'd seen for weeks on the project, never even acknowledged me. He's like, a manager,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and he would walk past And then after that, he came out and I stood at the front and he's giving me a massive hug. Oh, thanks so much for this. Explained like the 6 day week. And on the seventh day, church, wash my PPE and my work clothes and have some dinner with family and then back to work on a Monday. You're like, oh, yeah, you don't think about that level of stress
Yeah.
and busyness. You do think about it, but you think about and get on with it. It's when you take a step back and go, oh yeah, you don't think about the haircut, the washing, the seeing family, friends, going to the gym, go swimming, do stuff with your kids. And we're all guilty of overworking, all of us, especially in construction. It's like a badge of honor. If you don't do more than your hours that you're supposed to do, no one ever says this to you, it's just in here, right?
It's quite a masculine thing, though, isn't it? It's quite
Yeah.
that need to provide and need to the
The 50
bravado.
hours this week, son.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly that. And I think it was interesting for me having an insight into the construction world as well and how it works, and talking to some of these lads that are working away from home as well, and living in a travel lodge or
Mm.
so I'm sure someone was saying to us that they were camping somewhere, and it's like
Yeah.
and then working all day every day, going back home for a day, coming back again, or even not even some of them not even going home, and you think people often ask me, why do you think it's, construction has a high rate of suicide? Why do you? And I said, well, it's a mixture of things, really, but you can't really nail it on one thing, because everyone's different, everyone's individual. But if you put that work
Yeah.
lifestyle to some people, like they wouldn't be able to cope with that. If you said tomorrow, right, you're going to go live
No.
in a tent in central London, and you're going to get up and you're going to do manual labour all day, to have a shower at work, and then
Yeah.
and a lot of them go down the pub. There's a lot of what else do you do? Do you know what I mean? And they're drinking and they're hungover and missing their family and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's a real it's a real eye opener for me, really.
I think, I became addicted to it from that day. I wanted to do more and more of it and always push it. And I was very defensive about it as well because I come across other people and they get stay expensive for some haircuts. You're not paying for that. The
Yeah,
haircuts are a bit of it.
yeah,
It's the expertise, it's the experience for the individuals. If you get 30, 40, 50 people come in the room and start a conversation and you save one life, right?
yeah.
And I quote you a lot, you know this. Right? Like the 1.7 million pound haircut. Probably with inflation, by the way, it's probably double that now, right? But
Probably.
but I just think that the value is
Yeah.
so much bigger than me
It's
getting a slap head again.
Yeah, so it's the impact as well, like the that it makes around site as well. You've mentioned it
Mm.
there that people were talking about it all day. Therefore, people are talking about mental health, and I think we had somebody who came on and did their first ever pop up with us on a construction site, and she said to me, "She said they're not going to talk to me, are they?" No. I said, "Well, look, we'll wait and see. You carry on, and let me know how it goes." And she had a break at lunchtime. I took over from her, and I can't believe every single one of them said talked to me about mental health. Every single one of them. I said I didn't even have to say anything. I just told them who we are, what we did, and they went, "Oh yeah, well I've been through this, or my partner's going through this, or my friend's gone through this, or I've been through this," or and so it was just
Yes.
every single conversation was mental health led. And she said, and they got up and they were, they were so happy. They had their hair done. They all loved their hair. They felt, there was, and it's always a jolly experience as well. And I think that's the big thing with mental
Yeah.
health and suicide prevention. It's always been very depressing. All the campaigns are depressing. Everything is so fucking depressing all the time around.
Yeah.
So I think when we turn up and, we look the way we do and we talk the way we do and it's, we're
Bit of
practically
music on.
perfect, we've got music on, we're just talking about it and giving people a safe space. I'm not saying that, it's all laughs and, all the time, but it is a lot of the time. And then, we've had situations where we've had suicide interventions and we've had to pull someone to one side and get, other people involved to keep that person safe and been successful in that as well. But by giving people that opportunity to be able to have a safe space and have 20, 30 minutes where they sit down without anyone else asking them to do something or,
On
yeah,
the clock as well.
exactly, on the clock as well. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Get paid to have a haircut. Yeah. They love it.
And it's, yeah. For some people, that's enough, right? But that's all they need to feel like they're getting something
Yeah.
out of it. Others, it will be the conversation, the signposting, um, or the realization, actually, that oh, do you have some issues I never thought about.
Yeah.
Well, some don't even realise they've had the conversation. I thought
Yeah.
that was that's the best one of the day. There was a guy, I'm not going to mention his name, but an employee colleague of mine who was a manager. And he kept coming in, I ain't had my haircut. And you're like, look, I am a trained hairdresser, right?
Yeah.
Just, and you'll not find many better. So just come in or fuck off, basically, because you're disrupting everyone else. And I thought, it's great. And then he sat down and went, wasn't very good in my first marriage, but then I wasn't a great dad. But I really want to try in my second marriage, and I want to be better at my job and all this.
Yeah.
This is all coming out here. You're counselling yourself while having
Yeah.
your haircut.
Yeah. Yeah.
Someone's just asked how you are.
Yeah, it's surprisingly simple, but it's about having it. Like I said, it's that perfect storm of having that right environment as well for it to happen. And it's amazing how safe people do feel. One guy went to, I can't remember if it was Mace or not. It took me 15 minutes to actually ask what he wanted done to his hair, because he sat in the chair and went, right, well, I'm going through this and this and this and that. I was like, do you actually want a haircut, or are we just gonna, we can have a chat if you want, but
Yeah.
if you want a haircut, we're gonna need let me know, because this queue's getting bigger and bigger here. But yeah, but it's amazing. I think sometimes as well, having those, like yourself being there and being on site and being able to signpost to other people who are there, like we can act as like that conduit, or that bridge, that gap between the workforce and then the resources that are available. Because it's amazing how much stuff like Mace do, for example, and how much stuff they, and other construction charities that are involved with Mace, and what's available. And although it's plastered everywhere, it's amazing how much of them have just got their head down, they're working, they're getting stuff done. They don't
Don't
realise
do the
those things are
text.
there. They don't realise the things are there, and you sort of
Yeah.
let them know and reassure them, and then making that introduction to people like yourself and some of the others, then they have that barrier's gone.
I think you made a good point actually about making it easy or making it a positive experience. We've done other things to make it easier for people to utilize. Like, the pop-ups are the best thing I think I've ever been involved in, and I mean that genuinely. But I've seen other positive things we've done as a consequence of that,
Right.
because people go, actually, if we use a bit of a good message, PSA testing, right, for guys, because if we say, well, we're going to do prostate cancer checks on site, everyone's going to go,
Whoa,
is
yeah.
it the traditional method?
You got quite a big
Right?
finger as well, Stu.
I know. It's not going to be redoing the check-in.
Oh, what?
But
It's going to come
actually,
down.
if we say, so we're going to do PSA checks, we're going to do prostate cancer
Yeah.
checks the non-traditional way, right? It's be a small pinprick and that's it. You're done. We'll do a blood test and it gives indications, and we might just give you advice to go and see a GP if it's not right. Now, if you didn't mention it's not the traditional method, people might go, I don't really fancy having a pinprick on my finger. I don't like needles.
Yeah.
If you say, look, come and get checked, and by the way, no one's putting their finger up your bum, right? They're going to prick the end of your finger
Yeah.
and you'll be done, and we'll give you an idea whether you should go see a GP. That's huge. And I think we'd learned that inadvertently from what we did with the haircuts. Free haircuts, free haircuts, free haircuts. And it's mental health conversation, if you want.
Yeah. 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 Exactly.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
And
That's
it
the way to do
worked.
it, though, isn't it? That's the way to do it. And I think it's about reaching out. It's again, it's whatever it is, it's about bridging that gap between the community and the resources available by catching them in the spaces that they are.
Yeah.
Your space is predominantly men who are affected by prostate cancer, affected by suicide, affected by testicular cancer. So use these places to get them, because they're there anyway, right? They don't.
Yeah.
Blokes don't go to the doctors about anything. We're literally, legs falling off. You've had shooting pains up and down your arm for the last 3 months, and then you finally go to the doctors. It's like we don't have that relationship with medical care like women do, unfortunately. It's just this. We kind of go to the doctors with
Yeah.
our parents. My mum takes us normally when we're kids.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
as soon as you move out, that's it. I mean, I don't even know who my doctor is nowadays, because they change so often as well. So that relationship
Yeah.
has been broken down. So it makes it even more
Yeah.
difficult. And you can't get an appointment anyway, so you give up. And so I think we've got to try and find spaces to catch people before they slip through the net.
Yeah. And I think that making it easier or making it unavoidable,
Yeah,
actually, for people to get better. So we do quite a lot with occupational health nurses now, which there's more and more, say, get more and more people on site having an occupational health nurse on our projects where we can, where the client's willing to do it, and whatever, and making it easy for people to go and do it, or unavoidable. Blokes are terrible at it. I have been. I've got better in the last year,
yeah,
but I have to get pretty low to give myself a shake up.
yeah.
And having that ability to talk to someone and or making it unavoidable, that is probably the thing. That is probably the thing. We do stuff like, I'm dead fortunate, work for a great employer. We get doctor's appointments online, GP appointments online for private thing. It's fine, but they can't do a chest infection or, but it's good.
Yeah.
But,
About making it as
you know,
accessible as possible, isn't it? Right. I think that's
yeah.
the key.
My dad knew his GP, like 50 years ago. He actually knew him. Dr. Mack still talks about him now. I have no idea. I think it's
That'd
Andrews, but I want to say Julie Andrews, but that's because I want Mary Poppins to look
be
after
good,
me,
wouldn't it?
probably. That would be amazing.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I can remember my last doctor I can remember was Dr. Giblin, and he was a friend of mine's dad. And then when he passed, that was it. I don't know who it's been since then. Like, and that was probably 20 years ago. You know,
It's
so
mad, isn't it?
yeah, it's
But
been
I think,
those surgeries merge, and then you've got to call them at certain times or do things. But I can remember going for a point when the last couple of years when I've had serious with the closure of the charity, the divorce I went through, the not knowing whether I was going to keep my house or not knowing how long I was going to see my kids for every week, all those things, the stress of work, essentially losing my job and what have you. Um,
yeah,
and I wanted to go see a GP about depression and suicidal
yeah,
thoughts and all the rest of it. And I had to do a form online. I did the form online. They would call back within 14 days. I missed the call because I was in the gym. Called them back
yeah,
and they said, "Oh, you've missed your appointment. Now you have to do another form online." So I'm waiting another 14 days for a call back. So that was. So I didn't do it. I mean, luckily
no,
I know other resources that are around, and I know, I've got good
yeah,
friends like Dr. B. Trakin I can lean on and so on and so forth. But I just thought, imagine if you didn't have the knowledge or the resource that I have to hand, and
yeah.
you finally reached out to your GP, and they basically tell you got one chance, you missed that call, and
Yeah, we're too busy doing
you got to
paperwork.
wait again.
Oh, yeah.
You got to wait again. You could be really defeated and think, well, that's the only option I know
When
of.
the NHS is broken, right? And we don't need to get political on it. It's been broken for a long time. This government, last government, one before that, probably,
Mm.
and the one before that. I don't ever remember a
Well,
point in my life when
yeah,
everyone said it's rosy, but
yeah.
it doesn't make it right or any better for
No,
you as an individual. And
no,
I mean, we talked through that, and I've seen a massive transformation in you, physically and mentally. I think through those hard times. And he does remind us all that we're all human, right?
no, of
Because you
course,
and I are doing this wonderful thing with the Lions, but actually, both of us have been through pretty shit time, mental health wise. And then, watching you go through that and like the charity thing in particular, right?
yeah,
And I have my own take on it. I have my own take on that. It was bloody hard. It's hard
mm,
for just watching from the outside as an ambassador or
yeah,
um, I always think that uh, you're saving lives. I've said this to you before, and whether you're a charity or not matters not a shit to me. If you were a harness and then your safety harness and you stop someone falling from height and they live to tell the tale,
yeah.
they wouldn't check the charity status of the harness maker. And because it's physical, that's physical, and this is mental. We've got to put them on the same level, right?
Yeah.
So I'm all that, which neatly leads me on to what you're doing with the training. And I think I see a lot of that. I took a keen interest when you were doing the Everton in the community one, obviously, as an Everton boy.
Yeah, see Big Dunk in the background.
Big Donk, farewell to Goodison Park and Tony Value, all in the same way there. And but I think what you're doing with that, tell us more about Here's to Talk training then.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, so what happened in the last year, the sort of direction has changed a little bit. Lions Barber Collective has become a product of the pop-ups have become a product of Here to Talk Training. So Here to Talk Training is a training company, but basically started quite a few years ago now. But it's essentially the idea was I did a lot of training with when I lost my friend to suicide, and it was all very clinical. It was all quite diagnostic. It was all it was quite heavy as well, like really
Yeah,
heavy stuff. And I always went away feeling like, just like
yeah,
deflated and like, Jesus Christ, that's heavy. And I don't really need to know what the symptoms of bipolar are. I don't really know what this. I'm not here to diagnose anybody. It's about how do I have this start this conversation, recognize someone's struggling, start the conversation, and help keep them safe. So I worked with Dr. Peter Aitken, who's a clinical psychologist, and we basically came up with he oversaw everything to make sure everything was factually correct and safe and medically
Yeah.
safe. And essentially, we came up with a 4-pillar based training, which is about recognizing the signs that someone's struggling, how to ask questions and what questions to ask with confidence, how to listen well with empathy without judgment, and then finally, if needed, how to help that person find the help they need. So they're the 4 pillars. And then since the initial launch of it, we've now added the 5 steps to well-being at the end, and like an exercise where we help the individuals in the class create their own sort of, they self-prescribe their own sort of mental well-being plan, because I think that we all know what we need to do to keep ourselves physically fit, whether we do it or not.
Yes.
We always common knowledge, right?
Yeah.
We know what we should be doing. But with mental health, it seems to be something we deal with when it's too late, when we've got it. In actually preventative, there are preventative ways that we can do that through those 5 steps of well-being. And that training started off in the barbering world with Barber Talk. And then we went into hair and beauty talk, and the only real difference between that is barbering's very hairy and tattooed, and the hair and beauty talk's far more glamorous, but it's the same content essentially. And then I had lots of interest from people asking me to deliver it to corporate spaces, personal trainers, taxi drivers, tattooists, like lots of other spaces where people spend time one-to-one together, and even just general workspaces. And so we created, after, oh God, it started getting a bit wild, because we had tattoo talk, taxi talk, tutor talk, and it was just like, this is too many different versions of,
Here to talk.
you know. So then we just did non-industry specific version called Here to Talk, and we've done that in lots of different spaces, and it really, really has had great feedback, great results. I think it's a much more kind of accessible way of doing it, and it's not scary. Anyone could do it. And I think this is what it's all about. It's about early intervention. It's about enabling people within our communities to have these conversations much earlier. So we do prepare for moments of crisis in the training, but essentially, mate has changed behavior. They're acting out of character. That's an opportunity then to ask them a question, whether that's someone you work alongside, whether that's friends or family, or somebody that you bump into regularly at a club. If you go to your third space, whether it's a gym or sporting, whatever you do is your third space, your hobbies, and actually just ask them the questions. And something that's happened about 7 or 8 times now, we've had people that have come on the course and said to me they are there because they lost someone to suicide and didn't recognize the signs. And these 7 or 8 people at the end of it said, do you know what? I did recognize the signs. I did recognize that they'd lost loads of weight really quickly, and they were spending a lot of time alone, or they were sleeping all the time, or they were actively going out and partying and drinking and drugs far more than normal. I did recognize those signs, but I justified it to myself. I justified their behavior because I was scared to ask the question. And now I know that I can do that moving forward. And as sad as it is, I think that's the biggest thing. We are capable of recognizing changes in people's behavior, and that is an opportunity for us to then ask a question. It might not be, the suicide. It might just be they're having a shit day, but that's still very valuable if you let them then go, oh God, I had a really shit day. I had a flat tire on the way to work. The missus has lost her job, and or the kids are being little shits, or whatever it is. Then let them vent. And actually, an occupational therapist said that to me. You mentioned occupational therapists, you're working with them and stuff, but we said to me, said, what you're doing there is so valuable, because you're letting people let off steam, and it's going to prevent them by getting to a point of suicide. So by the time people get to her, they're screwed. They've lost everything. They've lost their job, they've lost their home, their wife, they're dependent on self-medication, whatever that is. They've chosen to help get themselves through it, and it's a really steep slope. But if you can have these conversations earlier on in the workplace,
early on,
barbershop, and then you prevent it.
I think. I was invited onto another podcast, which this happened a couple of times in quick succession, which is
Podcast king.
I know. I seem to have ended up. I was like, I might just do this myself. Be quicker. I don't have to go anywhere. But there was a couple of young guys on the M&C podcast, right? And I felt like I could have been their dad. I could have been their dad. I was old enough. But they said, "Oh, do you think there's space to have this in things like cafes, coffee shops?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely. It's a really good idea." And what you've done with Here to Talk rather than taxi talk, bus driver talk, barber talk, and all that is make that available. And I think, I'm going to shout out at people like Costa, Starbucks, and all them. I don't know, your pub chains like Punch Taverns and all that stuff.
Drink King and
Like,
all that
come
sort
on,
of
get
stuff.
your get your fingers out your asses now. And if you want to put some real CPD into the people behind your bars, helping your clients get stuff like this out there,
Yeah.
to put them into that
The
trainer.
thing is, as well, it's not only about the sufferer; it's about the listener as well, because
Yeah,
you're preparing them for a situation. Like I've said in the hair and beauty industry, the idea for me eventually is to we're currently going for some funding with Public Health England, with Liverpool University, to get some research and evaluation done around the training, with the long term goal to get this is the evaluation is going to be around the training with colleges and students, hair and beauty students, the long-term goal of then going to government to try and change policy so that this kind of training has to be inserted into the curriculum, and therefore they have this skill set. Because when I went on the shop floor as an 18-year-old male, and I was in Tony and Guy at the time, started off as a hairdresser, you're already thinking about every single section you take, how you cut every single hair, because you do not want to fuck up a woman's hair, especially when
yeah,
you're
yeah,
paying Tony and Guy prices as an
yeah,
18-year-old male. So you are focused 100% on that. Next thing you know, they start talking to you about the menopause or a miscarriage or an affair or a
yeah,
divorce. And that's just like, what? I'm so caught off guard here. I don't know how to have this conversation. I'm trying to get through the haircut. And I think that this, you're not preparing the industry for that. So I think by getting that training up, but then, that's an example of it, but that's true of anywhere, because people come into pubs and they
yeah,
offload to their bar staff. People go into a
yeah,
coffee shop, sometimes they offload to their bar staff. Anywhere that's public facing,
yeah.
you're gonna come across it whether you like it or not at some point in your career.
And I mean, there's not many people do my job in the UK, but I have acquired skills, and I think it's through working with yourself and in the barbers and Dan. I'm going to give Dan a shout out because I see him
Um,
a lot.
Absolute legend.
Dan the man. Over my career, I've worked with people that show me how to do things, and more importantly, how not to do things in that time. But don't everyone, I am really fortunate to get to where I've got to. Other people need that investment in those skills. And I think systemic change through government interactions, someone's got to bite the bullet on it.
Well, I think it comes back again to that £1.7 million, the cost of a death by suicide to the economy, right? If we're having early interventions, we're going to that's going to that number's going to go down. I think it was something like 9 billion or something last year, and we worked it out that year. So that number's going to go down. Plus, if it's going to take pressure off the NHS, it's going to take pressure off all the other resources. If we can if people are prepared to have these conversations day to day with their friends, their colleagues, and there was evidence in a bit of research done that actually it's just as effective having a conversation about low-lying mental health with a friend or colleague than it is going to a GP.
Yeah,
So we can have these conversations regularly. And I think there needs to be a lot of education around what mental health is. We've done mental health awareness in the last 10 years. I've been doing this has gone through the roof. Like, everyone's talking about it.
yeah.
It's become a PR stunt. It's become a trend. It's become all those kind of
A
things.
day, a week, a month.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that, these people, they know the terminology, because, it's everywhere: anxiety, depression, suicide, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah. But the thing is, like, when I was younger, that wasn't really a thing. Like, you could be nervous,
yeah,
and that's fine. That's a normal human emotion, to be nervous or be sad or be. Whereas now, what happens is people go, "Well, I'm anxious, therefore I have anxiety, therefore it becomes their entire
yeah,
personality." Or I'm a bit. They'll pinpoint maybe one thing about ADHD and go, "Well, I've got ADHD," without having any kind of
yeah.
um,
Diagnosis. Yeah,
diagnosis or anything, and then it becomes their identity, and they become that. I think I've been doing some work with Anna Freud. Well, I did some work, it was a while ago now, with Anna Freud Center, about this toolkit for young people to teach them that, yeah, it's okay to be anxious. That is normal. It doesn't mean you have anxiety. I think that kind of educational piece around the terms needs to come into play. And another thing
yes,
that I think is really important is the fact that we're telling people to talk about it all the time, but do people really know how to respond and listen?
yeah,
And if I open up
yes,
to you and say, "Look, I'm really struggling, Stuart. I'm having a really bad time. I think I'm in a really bad place," and you say, "Oh, come on, mate, you're doing all right. You got a nice house, the kids. There's loads of people worse off than you." All that does is shut me down, and
yeah,
reassert the belief that it's not okay to talk to people, and that might be the one opportunity that person had. Because if
yeah.
someone opens up and talks to you about it, that's pretty special. They trust you with something they probably never.
It's a massive amount of trust. I mean, I've 100% been through that myself, right? My Instagram life versus real life, right? In the last few years, which led to both those two diagnosis by people who really do know this stuff
Yeah.
versus what I know. I mean, and someone sitting down saying, read your email before you got here. I could tell, like, you got depression, mate. We're going to help you with that.
Yeah.
Wasn't expecting that. So I think seeing specialists are like brilliant people, like changed my life. I don't know about saved my life because I never had those thoughts, right?
Yeah.
But certainly changed my life for the better. And I think if I'd left unchecked, who knows?
Yeah.
So early intervention was life changing. And the ADHD diagnosis, I was like, okay, not a surprise, but brilliant that I know
Yeah.
what's going on, and I can learn some coaching techniques, and I can understand what's on with me. And they found a medication, so I'm not ashamed of being medicated. That dealt with mood, dealt with ADHD dopamine levels because the two things are related.
Yeah.
And it's the particular drug that I was taking, it was a help to stop smoking. Well, that's gone. And it's just like that, by the way.
Really?
2, 3 months of reducing, and then just like one day, don't know why I'm doing this. And that, it's probably, what are we now? 9 months, 10 months since I've smoked.
Wow, that's amazing, shit.
And
All amazing. It's all
it.
amazing how it all aligns.
But I think I knew it was all right for me. Oh, lucky. Yeah, I'm lucky because before I went into that first meeting, I'd worked at you and I'd go sit down. I knew it was all right to talk. It was all right to talk and people would listen. So I thought when I finally found someone I could trust, and it wasn't recommended by someone close, it was a friend who knew the stuff. And to sit down and go, right, I know I need help, and this is what I'd written down. And they go, yeah, you got this and this. Right, but we're going to help you. And we're like, ta-da! I was like, oh, there's a fix for this shit. It's amazing. I can see talking to my kids and my wife and my friends, and you're like, oh God, I didn't realise until now. Now I look at you now, and I look at you then, you were a miserable prick at times, or
Yeah.
you were drunk in the pub all the time, or at night. The landlords love me. They're like, Stu's great. He's always there. Like, there's a problem. Yeah. The current landlord might say that, but my wife did to go to Ibiza on her own with my daughter. Not me, is my point. And my son was in Wales, and I'm like, I'm on my own. Do I go to Asda or do I go to? But yeah, getting that help, getting that interaction, and seeing how much that can help,
Yeah.
or did help me, can help others.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's one of those things, isn't it? When you're going through it, and I mean, I've been through it. There's probably been the last 2 years, probably been the toughest 2 years of my life ever. And I have had suicidal ideology. I never actually was going to do it. I never actually, but there were points, I was walking on the seafront and looking at the cliffs and thought, well, that's an idea. But it's not a, and it's quite scary to have that type of suicidal ideology, to have that
Yeah,
struck you, because all it is your brain looking for ideas to get out of the situation you're in. It doesn't
yeah,
it doesn't mean it's a good idea. It's a very permanent solution to a temporary problem, but it kind of makes you realize. And I think people say, and I know it all because I've said it all and I've done it all and I've listened to it all and I've been trained and I've trained people, and in a year's time will this be relevant? It will get better. There will be light at the end of the tunnel. All those kind of things, and you know what you need to be doing. Difficult to do them when you're in that place because you don't want to do anything. You don't want, and you feel like every corner you turn, that there is something else. You think, I'm just turning this corner. I said it was like I turned a corner, and as I got round the corner thinking, oh, I'm happy, there'd be a clown laughing at me and kick me in the bollocks of his big bloody clown shoes. You go, oh, get now. So it's just literally
not
one thing
again.
after another for ages. But I got to a situation now where I'm taking it in my hands. I carried on the gym. The gym saved my life for sure.
Yeah,
That kept me consistent. That was one thing I could control throughout everything that was going on. I've lost 9.5 stone in weight.
amazing.
And that's made me a better place. And now it's all kind of culminated. And now I'm spending a lot of time at the beach. I'm spending a lot of time on the moors. I'm in the sea. I'm in the sea nearly every day. I'm in the gym 5 days a week. I've got my boys half the time. And now things are starting to kind of fall into place. But it's with that groundwork that happened. And you think, God, a year ago even, I wouldn't have thought I'd get out of that, throwing a bit of romantic grenade in there somewhere, which kind of ruined, kind of, thought I'd found happiness, and then it turned out that I wasn't there at all. It was all a farce. So, there's all these kind of things that all have rolled into one at a time. When you're in that space, it feels like everything is against you, and you're never going to get out of it. But if there is anyone struggling in that space who's listening to this, you will get through it. You will get through it. There is help out there.
Absolutely.
Ultimately, it's on ourselves to push ourselves through it, isn't it?
Yeah. And when I remember before I turned my bit round, but I could see you were struggling. I couldn't see it myself, but we were chatting, right? And it would be voice notes or Instagram or just, 50 bloody funny reels, right, on Instagram or whatever, an hour.
Mostly wrestling based, yeah.
Mostly wrestling based. Do you remember this one? Or just woo, And but I could tell, I could hear your voice in the messages you were sending, and you're like, oh, he's struggling. And you were going through obviously separation and divorce was coming, and yeah, it was coming down the line. Like, if you want to just come and get a change of scenery, me like, well, and we weren't closing each other down and saying stop talking, it's going to be all right, because actually you don't know, I don't know,
Yeah,
right? But if you wanted for a bit,
yeah,
come here, it's lovely down in Brunton, and I think having that knowledge, hopefully, that helps people go through stuff. It didn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me now. I got to where I was looking at those last 5 years. Work was a massive plus for me and has been, since I joined Mace. And when there's few of you in your industry, there's always opportunity for other people to want you, but I've not wanted to be not with Mace, right?
yeah.
And that's been great. And it's led to things like working with you and Lighthouse or the clients. I remember doing that one at Heathrow. That was brilliant. Right? And we
So
did
good, yeah,
Dan Carnegie doing his hair for the Little Princess Trust. And he's like, do you think the Barbers will come? I was like, pretty sure, right?
yeah, yeah. It was great.
And there's part of me thinking about the PR side of it, but actually, it was just a decent thing to do. And
Yeah,
those 5 pillars for looking after yourself, doing something good for other people was incredible. And there we were under the sculpture at the Queen's Terminal at Heathrow in space. You couldn't rent that space.
no,
We
no,
were just given it because it was amazing. The airport was all on board with it. So I was doing all those wonderful things, but then outside of work, you're like,
yeah, yeah.
this is shit.
Yeah, I was that. I remember that day very well. I was in a really bad place. I was in a really
Yeah,
bad place at that moment in time. It was, but it
yeah,
was such a, and it's sometimes it's hard when you think you're doing all those amazing things and you know how amazing they are, and you can see the looks on everyone's face and you can see the impact, but you're still feeling like you said, yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? And I think sometimes that sometimes you can lose of the power of what you're doing, and the purpose and the reason, the mission, and all that sort of stuff because you're in such a bad place, and that shows how much you've been affected, how
yeah,
low you are, because now again it's become, and I'm glad I've kept going. I'm glad I've driven through and carried on and set up again as a company and doing it as I'm doing. Because I could have just gone back to barbering or hairdressing and opened up
yeah,
a salon and done that. But I'm glad I did it because now it's kind of come full circle, and I've kind of, when I first started, we've got control over what we're doing. It's not about raising money. It's not about,
yeah.
it's about doing the things we want to do. And I've got the best work-life balance I've ever had in my entire life. I get my boys for a
Amazing.
full week every other week, which means I can't travel that week anyway. And I
And
work,
midweek.
yeah, and yeah, I do all my admin and I work and I, do things like this. And when I pick the boys up from school, I don't do anything after that. I check my emails before I go to bed, but I don't do anything after that. I just spend all my time with them. And then when I haven't got them,
Great.
that's when I book in the traveling and the events, and then sometimes I have free time to myself. I can do whatever I want, and
Yeah,
refinding Tom again, rather than Tom Chapman Lions Barber Collective, Tom Chapman Here to Talk, Tom Chapman
yeah,
Public Speaker, Tom Chapman Dad, Tom Chapman
yeah.
Husband, and actually find me again and do what I want to do. And yeah,
Loving yourself.
yeah, do you know what? Fuck it, I'm gonna go up on the moors today because I can.
Yeah.
We'll go for a wander and maybe jump in the river, and just because I want to do it.
It's been great watching you actually change in the last year, 18 months as a friend. Distance is the biggest pain in the ass for our friendship,
Yes,
right? Because you live down near,
the
probably
arse
nearer
end of
New York
nowhere.
than me. But watching that change and seeing you get happy again has been brilliant as a friend. And getting well myself in the same period, but not inside first. I think getting well inside has been a huge thing. And the cause of reaching the bottom doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
Is recognizing you could come back out the other end. And that should hopefully, I know for sure, a couple of people I've spoken to that I trust at work and said, oh, listen, I might not be myself at the moment going through this issue. And there's one guy, Steve, Big Steve, that I've known probably since I was born. He's known me anyway. He's bald, but when you were there, he did his beard because he had more hair on his chin than his head, right? But he's top bloke. And then he said, "Do you know what to do? I'm in that place as well." Right, are you? Yeah. Oh my God, the difference in him in a similar period of time, just from seeing someone else go. And I think between us, it's not a sign of weakness any more than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm a working class lad from North Wales with very few qualifications and a load of rough ass people, not rag ass people that I grew up with, who were amazing. But if you said to him, I'm having a down day, I can imagine him taking the piss out of me already.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah, but I think the thing is now that we're all having shit days. We all have shit times.
Oh,
Mental health doesn't care how old you are, where you're from, what your religion is, what your beliefs are,
nope.
where you were born, whatever. It literally has no. It doesn't care. It affects all of us. And, it's about the human condition. It's about you know being loved and being able to love and then being able to belong. And I think there's the basic human needs. That's what we need.
Yeah.
And I think people realize that you know mental health is normally, it doesn't have to be, we're starting to realize this more and more, it doesn't have to be psychosis or PTSD or bipolar or clinically diagnosed situations. It's just loss a lot of the time, loss of a job, loss of a family member, loss of a relationship, loss of a whatever it may be.
Rolling with the blows
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah,
in it, defeat or I know Jackie and her dad and the kids both being like physically and mentally ill all within 2 years. And you're rolling with the blows of COVID at the time, and you're rolling with the blows of, am I going to keep a job? And then you get a new job, and it's amazing, and it's all in the same business. And you get these new initiatives, and someone goes, no. And you're like, oh, come on. And all of that to just push it down. Right? So
yeah,
it's not a specific thing. I don't think I had a specific thing. I think probably I had 38 years of specific
yeah,
things
yeah,
actually that led to it. That led to that position. Sometimes realization is the greatest thing. Okay, that's shit. That was
yeah,
shit. And this is why. Put that in that box, and we know where it is, and we know how to deal with it.
yeah,
And let's move on. I love what you're doing with Here to Talk training. I think we can get. I am not ashamed of calling out different brands or whatever. We talked about before with the pub chain, coffee shop chains, etc. Everywhere. I could get all of my supervisors. We could do that, right? We could have blackout supervisors in construction sites. You could have more barbers and hairdressers. Your bus drivers, whatever it might be.
yeah,
I reckon people who check train tickets should have a bit of training myself. So you see the stress of people trying to buy a ticket in the morning,
yeah, right.
But
Yeah, well,
joking aside, I
we've done
think,
some stuff in Network Rail and that. I think that's a prime space for it, really. But I think it is essential. I think it's essential conversational skills, and I think we're losing that. We are losing that conversational skills set that most people struggle to have a conversation a lot, like about
yeah,
most things, because we're becoming more and more disconnected. I think if it's part of the hair and beauty curriculum, why not be part of any construction curriculum or any MVQ or any,
yeah,
why not? We've just done some fantastic work with consultancy work with Exeter University, to using the training as an example, build a online training program for all of they've got 35,000 students worldwide, all of them to be able to do this training, and also how to look after their own mental well-being and stuff like that. This is the only way we're going to make any real sort of long-lasting real changes, by teaching the next generation how to have these they're all aware of it, but how do we have those conversations better?
yeah. And I think that is really important. And how we do affect government. I've got a couple of people that I've mentioned in other podcasts. I got into construction because everyone else wanted to be an MP. Maybe I start calling on some of those MPs. We'll get them on here,
Good
or
shout.
Lords members, whatever, and do our stuff there. Who else was I talking to? Oh, yeah, the two lads that work for me they don't work for me. They work with me from Ace. I don't know anyone reporting to me formally. They did episode 1, Johnny and Matt, doing the what about you stuff. Yeah, they're making me use this all the time.
Legend.
Quite happy to do so, right?
They're the
Well, I
ones
had a bit of
they're the ones
conflict.
we met at Heathrow.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you met them, yeah.
yeah, great lads.
And what they're trying to do is incredible as well. And it's just like looking after night shift workers is the predominant part of it, their thrust. But they want to. They're like, can we get Tom to come on? I was like, oh, fine. We'll just do it one first. Like, we'll do another one. And I think their ambition is to get some sort of studio at Heathrow Airport where we can do these. We'll see. We've
That'd be
got
great
other
fun.
things to build.
Great fun studio on the runway.
So
planes.
Oh yeah, we are overlooking the runway, yeah, and we might not be able to get it in upper class. We tried that before, didn't we? I think, look, is it what you guys are doing and have done, and the people you have trained and helped get in there, you've made the world a much better place. I see my father-in-law is 92 and he's not in the best of health, and he makes the effort with me every second or third haircut I go to travel 40 minutes down to Brighton to see Dan, right? Because Dan's a magician. And he's got the coolest, trendiest barber shop in Brighton. But he went through, big part of his life was Lions Barbers
Yeah.
with him, and the training with you. And I know when Bill comes out of there, he's got a spring in his step, and his step's not very springy these days at nearly 92. Cancer's really taken hold of him. And I think for him to be in there and make that effort, because he wants to see that particular person, because he makes him feel good when he comes out. Wow. I mean, that stuff is
It's
what we're
powerful,
here
isn't it?
for, right? Yeah.
Powerful. Yeah, it's powerful. The power of a haircut, license to touch, that intimacy, the oxytocin that's released from it, the dopamine, the endorphins, it's great. You feel better, you look better, you build a relationship with that person.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, it does.
Cool.
I think the hair and beauty industry is incredibly undervalued in society. It's seen
Yeah.
as something you do if you can't do anything else. Not only is it a hugely skilled jobs, but job itself, they're also saving lives daily.
But yeah, so look, I think you've been seeing what you do as well as an impact on them. They came to the Queen's terminal
Yeah,
that
we
day,
did.
and
Yeah,
Frankie loved going back and forward to the van with you.
yeah. Bless
But
him.
I just they yeah. I'm a bugger for picking up merch, aren't I? My Lions Barbers merch. I mean, Annabelle's got the T-shirt on
Bless him.
quite a lot when she's around, and Frankie uses his water bottle every day and has done ever
Bless him.
since. I'm not sure they're supposed to last 3 or 4 years, but it's still going right. So what next, Tom? Are we going to, how do we
What
keep the
next?
good work going?
Well, I mean, for me personally, we're in the process of working on an online training program, essentially, so that the training can be delivered to people without me having to go and deliver it. So people can do it independently themselves.
Yeah.
I've got a meeting tomorrow again with the developers that are doing that, and they might as well be speaking another language to me. I have no idea what they're going on about all the time. But we're just trying to work out the most sort of. It's got to be aesthetically pleasing. I feel it's also got to be. It's also got to be smooth and run through, and not be any sort of problems now. So it's taken a little while to get up and running, but that's the next thing I really want to do. And I basically want to try and get out there and do as much training as possible with the next generation, and then just get out and do the pop-ups. I mean, they're my favorite days for sure.
Yes.
I mean, the pop-ups, we can't go anywhere, literally anywhere. As long as we've got 2x4 meter square, we can, 2x4 meters, we're fine. We can go and we can set up a couple of chairs and a bit of power, and off we go.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we'll get you into back out and trimming
Yeah,
on some more of the Mace projects this year.
yeah. We had a great day with Mace recently as well, wasn't it? And
Yeah,
St Paul's Cathedral. It was brilliant. Yeah, the interiors.
that's right. And they're a good, all the projects we're doing are brilliant and different. And, I am fortunate that I get to work on all those different things. One day you're in an airport terminal, then you're up overlooking the Shard from the building you're building next door, and then you're in a different airport, and then you're in a train station.
It's pretty cool.
And all of those things are places where we've got friends, colleagues, and wonderful people to work with. But our hour is up. And,
What's up?
look, Tom, it's been, as ever, it's love to see you. We'll get links and stuff across in the descriptors and in the shares and wherever when this gets published. So control my ADHD and not publish it 5 minutes after recording. We'll do some proper editing this time.
Yeah,
And look, it'd be lovely to see you in person soon.
yeah. Hopefully soon.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah.
keep up the good work, mate. And thanks so much for coming on. I love these conversations and raising that awareness and just shouting as well about the wonderful people that I've met. I'm so lucky to meet the people I do and work with the people I do, you included. So thanks very much, mate.
Thank you,
Been a
mate. Thanks for
pleasure.
having me on.
See you soon.
See you soon, buddy.